What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Switch It Up Podcast, episode 2. Today, we'll be breaking down two of the funniest TikTokers that I found on the app that I just had to share. A couple comedy specials from each of us that you should check out on Netflix that are well worth a watch. As always, we'll get into a couple heated sports debates where Huz and I give our takes. We'll also be breaking down the playoffs, the NHL playoffs, which are coming up here this next weekend, and we'll give our predictions for each team and every matchup. And then finally, we'll be taking a look at an Instagram poll that we shouted out on our Instagram, taking questions from you guys, giving our answers. Without further ado, we hope you like the episode, and let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to start with is two TikTokers that I have desperately wanted to share on the podcast. The first one that we're going to talk about is his name is White Claw Gabe. If you haven't heard of this guy, you're living under a rock because he is everywhere. He has coined the term fuck baby and made it his brand that has turned him into a multimillionaire by virtue of simply saying fuck baby. He gives zero context to anything that he's doing within any of the videos that I'm about to show you. And he just says right around 3 words, and he's got, I believe, over 1 million followers now, and all of his videos, he has 600 million likes, and all of his videos have well over 1 million views. This is incredible. So without further ado, I give you White Claw Gabe.
Hey, guess what I'm having today? Fuck, man. Fucking steak, baby, yeah. The ribeye, mashed potatoes, beans, yeah, baby, fuck. Fucking steak, yeah. Monday brunch, baby, fuck. This is what to make of your Monday, fuck. Any day, it's what makes it your day, make it a happy one, fuck, man. Fuck. Fucking steak,
that,
baby, yeah. Fucking Monday.
That's hilarious.
It's not done.
Yeah, fucking Monday, baby. Fucking Monday. Steak, baby. Fucking Monday. Fuck. All right.
Nice.
Make Monday a good day, baby. Yeah.
Everything about that clip is incredible. He, just when you think it's about to end, it doesn't stop. And he said about 4 words throughout the entire thing. It's become so incredible. This guy is, if you don't understand why this guy is funny, grow up, because he is absolutely incredible. And I want to grab a beer with him. I just want to be around him. I want him to be my friend so that I can understand what is going on up here, because it is insane. As for why he is incredible and what's gone on with him, so he's become a TikTok sensation, which has led to a ton of stuff, including drinking games being made around him saying the word fuck, which is just absolutely fantastic. And I would greatly love to play while we're still in lockdown. So take a look at this.
I feel like you'd almost kill yourself playing
Lemon,
this
baby.
game.
Finally came out. I'm just giving it a try. It's not bad. I love iced tea. Iced tea lemon, baby. Fuck. White Claws, baby. Fuck. And this is what it looks like. The color, if you pour it in a glass, it's almost like beer. Fuck, baby. Fuck. Yeah, White Claw, iced tea lemon, baby. Fuck. Yeah, try it. It's not bad, baby. Fuck.
You would die. It's just...
Oh my god.
Yeah, baby. Iced tea lemon from the White Claw, baby. Fuck.
I just love that so much. And there's more than just this. He's doing a bunch of stuff where people are counting how many times he says weekend and baby and fuck. It's just, I love White Claw Gabe. Feel free to go check him out on TikTok at White Claw Gabe, because I cannot stress enough just how funny he is.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor, like at White Claw Gabe. The second thing that I want to talk about is a TikToker by the name of David Bronstein. Now, this guy is my personal favorite. He's not famous like White Claw Gabe. He's got around, I want to say, under 10,000 followers, at least by the last time I checked. But I was doing a deep dive on this guy's profile, and I just cannot get over how, like, I want to know how his mind works, his tone, his cadence, how he ends videos just so sporadically. Basically, he claims to be a marketing guru and says that we can all make our money together and we're going to blow up. And he's trying to recruit talent to be a part of his agency. And it is the funniest thing. I went through a rabbit hole for around 3 hours and I pulled the best videos to show on the pod. And I cannot understand just how good this guy is. Take a look at this.
All right, so where am I? At the Rich Mall. What is this? A Porsche?
Is that your
There
car?
goes some more. Guess where I'm going? I'm going right here. I'm going to show you more. Hold on. What's this car? And what's this? What's these two cars here? BMWs. There's the Mercedes. You want to play in this world? You message me. I'm David Bronstein, own a media agency. Let's make our billions together. Guess where I'm going? Pick up a $100 meal at Joey's. It already cost me $300. Look at that gorgeous Mercedes. That already cost me $310 at the Octagon. David at davidbronstein.com. That's where all the billions are, or trillions now. And I'll be in touch with you on Tuesday because Passover is Saturday. And we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna come to Joey's every night. When you email me, David at davidbronstein.com. Let's go. Stupid already.
Let's go.
Isn't that nice? They closed the whole restaurant just for me. Look at that. See that? All for David Bronstein.
So there's
Oh my
so
God.
much to unpack in this clip, okay? So the way that he just interrupts himself 45 times, the way that he expects us to know who he is to begin with. It's just, I am obsessed with understanding how this man's brain works because he is just incredible. He's like, apparently, if we want to make our billions or our trillions, we should contact him, which I have every plan of contacting David Bronstein. But I feel like he's just trying to get people to talk to him, but how he makes money, how he expects people to email him or to be a part of whatever Ponzi scheme he's running is just blowing my mind. And he has so many fans on TikTok, which is just amazing. And they all appreciate him to the extent that I do of just understanding why this guy is the way he is. Now, he also has an obsession with the rich place. So if he goes to a Walmart, it's the rich Walmart. If he goes to a McDonald's, it's the rich McDonald's, which he's just flaunting other people's cars and other people's things and then being like, contact me. So I want you guys to watch the way this next video ends because I cannot express how much I love it, how much what he's saying doesn't matter apparently because he found something better to do. So check this one out. You'll also catch that he's talking about the rich McDonald's, which is great.
Rich McDonald's. Now, the reason why I call it the Rich McDonald's, can you see the Porsche and the Mercedes and the BMW? They're right there. See Porsche, Mercedes. See it? Can you see the cars? This is the neighborhood that I live in, and I want to share the wealth with you. I'm David Bronstein. I want you to email me and DM me. There's another.
And that's just how it ends. That's it. That's it. I want you to email me. He pans the camera to a car, I guess, or something, and that's it. So I love this man with all my heart. I am going to, for the next podcast, DM David at David Bronstein to make our billions together. Because I think he's going to want a take of our podcast, which I'm definitely not willing to give up. But I cannot express how much I want to see how this guy operates. So we're going to do a deep dive into David Bronstein and how and what it would take to be a part of his media empire. So
honestly, why not just have him in next Monday?
Like, oh my God! If I could get him on the podcast, every one of my dreams would be complete. Okay, because I would love to pick this man's brain about how he films these incredible videos. If you haven't done yourself the favor, or if I am introducing you the first time to David Bronstein, you're welcome. It's at David Bronstein on TikTok. I am happy to give him a shout out.
It's actually at David Bronstein
too. At David Bronstein. Yeah. Come on now. I know. He's got like the top pegs at TikTok, probably just like they're probably his best friends. So yeah, feel free to check out David Bronstein on TikTok, and I'm going to try and infiltrate the David Bronstein media empire for next week. So stay tuned for that. Moving on to the next segment, we got our favorite Netflix comedy specials. So for that, without further ado, my favorite comedy specials, Anthony Jeselnik's Fire in the Maternity Ward. Now, this is a little bit controversial, if I'm being honest, because Anthony Jeselnik is not a PC comedian, to put it lightly. He is essentially a very make fun of everything, no matter the consequences comedian. The opening line of the stand-up special is something along the lines of, so I dropped a baby today. So for this, you have to be kind of on the edge of comedy and be okay with kind of not PC humor, but he is incredible if you watch him, and truly like a master of toting the line between what is acceptable and what is not. And he's an incredible comedian, well worth a watch.
I
What do
wouldn't
you
say
got,
it
Huz?
suits every audience. He is funny. I find him funny at times. I do have two with me right now. Both of our favorites, Bert Kreischer, obviously the machine.
Yeah,
The whole
fantastic.
thing around is just really funny. Great guy, great humor. First thing he does, walks up on stage, chugs a beer, takes his shirt off, tosses it in the crowd, and then does a show. So it's very laid back, hilarious, good jokes, good humor, and then anyone can watch it. It's not just limited to some audience.
Thing is with that too is with Bert's machine pot or Bert's
Yeah.
machine special is that it's one of the greatest stories ever told.
No, exactly. That's like
Incredible.
most of his stuff isn't like that he's written up. A lot of it is like his own experiences, right?
Exactly.
But like the way his storytelling is just awesome, man. Like, and then adding jokes into it as well. It's just you're hooked to it from the beginning.
Yeah, if you haven't seen The Machine, just strictly for the final 15 minutes where he tells the story
The story of the machine.
of how the machine came to be, it's well worth a watch. It's how he became
100%.
the Russian mafia.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
100%. I'm sure you can like even on YouTube, you can just look if you don't want to watch the whole clip or the whole series that he's got going. Just YouTube the machine story, and it's like right there's about a 15-minute segment, like you said.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But moving on to my second comedy special, I definitely give a shout out to my guy Hassan Minaj.
Classic.
He's obviously a typical brown comedian, roasting brown people, but it's funny at the same time. It's always good humor. It's always family kind of humor that he portrays in his specials as well. If you haven't given Homecoming King a watch, definitely give that a watch.
Definitely the opposite to an Anthony Jeselnik.
Oh, 100%.
Family-friendly
Anything-
comic.
Honestly, any comedy special out there, I personally would say is the opposite
Yeah, true.
of Jeselnik for sure. Like this guy
Yeah.
is so like one of his specials, I think it's called Thoughts and Prayers.
Yeah.
He literally says anytime there's like a disaster, all his friends would text him saying, "Don't do it."
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how he knows that there's something wrong.
Yeah, don't
It's
tweet
like,
about
okay,
it, Anthony.
So something happens. Like, what do I do about it? But yeah, like comedy special wise, like I would watch Anthony Jeselnik, just fair
Yeah.
warning ahead of time.
Yep.
But before that, if you need a good warm up, I'd watch Bert Kreischer or Hassan Minaj, and then move on to that afterwards for sure.
Absolutely. I can't say we endorse the content Anthony talks about, but he's funny
Definitely
nonetheless.
Definitely not.
And for my second comedy special, I got John Mulaney, Kid Gorgeous at Radio City. He won an Emmy for that one. It's
Really?
hilarious. Yeah, very self-degrading humor and very he's got this like boyish charm where you just want to like listen to how he talks.
Yeah.
It's a very like self-deprecating, funny podcast or funny comedy special where he sells out Radio City for like 7 nights and he won the Emmy for it. So
Oh, wow.
well worth a watch.
That is crazy.
Here we got Ryan Whitney on the Spit and Chicklets podcast last week. Had a really interesting take that I thought we would give our opinion on. So he called Connor McDavid the most dominant athlete in any sport currently playing, which I thought was
Currently playing or, like, of all
very
time?
interesting. No, in currently playing today in any sport, which I
I
think
would-
is not true.
No, definitely
Yeah.
not.
I
mean-
do think he's the most dominant hockey player currently playing because I think
Hockey
there's
player,
no,
yeah, 100%.
there's no
He's the best
question.
player in the league, but
Right. But okay, so who do you
Sports-wise-
think? What would be your take, Huz, on who's the most dominant athlete today?
So honestly, before I even want to say my guy, like I want to maybe define athlete
For sure,
and
yeah.
dominance, right? So if you go from sport to sport, I don't see any hockey player being in the top 5 or even top 10 in
Interesting.
all sports.
Okay.
In all sports. And the reason why is if you look at a hockey player outside from his equipment, like, you won't be able to tell if he's an athlete or not. For a lot of guys, not everyone, obviously. There are
Yeah, there's
guys that are
obviously some
jacked in the league,
specimens,
right?
but yeah, I know what you mean.
But if you look at the NFL, look at Aaron Donald.
Yeah, sure.
Look, the guy's a fridge.
Yeah, he's
He's
freak.
literally a fridge.
Athletically,
And then-
absolutely.
And then if you, but now people can argue that he's a D lineman, right? So he's supposed to be that build.
For sure.
All right, let's look at receivers. Look at DK Metcalf.
Yeah, but I don't know if the point he was trying to make was like how athletically built someone is. I think it's just like how much they as themselves dominate the sport. Like the sport they play, how much do they dominate? And to
I guess
his
that
defense,
is true.
to his defense,
Yeah.
McDavid had a season this year where he put up, I think points era adjusted, he put up the ninth best season ever in the history of hockey.
155.
Yeah, it was like era
Well,
adjusted
yeah,
to
yeah,
155 points or something
yeah,
bananas like that. So
yeah.
that's why I think he said McDavid's the most dominant athlete. I personally think it's not even close, and it's Mike Trout.
No,
And the reason I think it's Mike
I
Trout.
would argue between Mike Trout and LeBron James.
So sure, and
Those
that's
would be my two guys that I'd argue
right.
between, and both of them have excelled in their sports tremendously, especially like in our time as well.
Right.
And then if you're talking just individual sports, you can even put Messi and Ronaldo in there as well.
Oh,
for
absolutely.
those two guys, right? But in terms of hockey, I would say it is one of the toughest sports to play. Only reason why is because you're on an inch, not even an inch, like some, smaller than that blade, skating around the ice, having at that speed, controlling the puck, scoring and defending, whatever you're doing in the game. That obviously adds a huge aspect of it towards itself. But I just don't like if I'm comparing Mike Trout, LeBron James, and Connor McDavid as the three-headed monster in sports as of today. I don't think McDavid, if he were to practice for 2 years, could play baseball or basketball at the level of Mike Trout or LeBron James. Whereas if you give LeBron James and Mike Trout a pair of skates, give them 2 years of training, they can play hockey. I think they will be able to play hockey, not to the level of McDavid, obviously.
Right. Yeah, of course.
But in terms of skating and properly at an NHL level, if given 2 years of time, I think they'll do it. Only reason why
that is an outrageous
these guys
take.
Are freaks. No, these guys are freaks nature. Like if you look at the way he's built, like give him a baseball bat, he'll hit a ball.
So let me just break it down for the viewers. What you are trying to tell me right now is that you think in 2 years, given 2 years of strict training every day, that Mike Trout or LeBron James could make the NHL?
I want to say they'd make the NHL, but they could play hockey at a really high level.
Oh my goodness!
Compared to what McDavid could do in basketball. No,
that's crazy.
I will stand by my take.
See, here's my opinion on Whitney's take, which was why McDavid is the most dominant athlete. We'll get back to your insane take in a second here.
All right.
But so McDavid goes here. Whitney says McDavid's the most dominant athlete in sports. I think it's Mike Trout, and the reason I think it's Mike Trout is while McDavid is extremely dominant, while he is incredible at hockey and bar none the best hockey player currently playing today, Mike Trout is going to go down as the greatest baseball player to ever play the game. He's going to, like, statistics show it. His consistency shows it. Everything about Mike Trout says he's going to go down as the Michael Jordan or the greatest baseball player of all time. So personally, I think that McDavid won't go down as the greatest of all time because the best he can hope for is a top 5, maybe a top 10 finish all time for best hockey player. He's not going to surpass Wayne, right?
No,
whereas Mike Trout already, if he retired, has had a Hall of Fame career, and if he continues at the rate he's going, will be the greatest of all time. And that's why I think you can't say he's not the most dominant athlete.
See, maybe I misunderstood what Whitney was saying,
right?
Because if he's talking about dominant athlete in terms of dominating the sport individually,
right,
in today's era, then my top 2 would be Mike Trout number 1 and then McDavid second, because he is dominating the game. But if I'm talking about an athlete where the way you're built, the way you play your game, how you're obviously dominating sports as well, I would have McDavid maybe in my top 5, but probably like top 10, but lower the bottom 5. Right. I don't see, because the way I see it for an athlete is that you're just naturally gifted.
Gotcha.
You're built, and if you're dominant, you should be able to play other sports and dominate there as well. Like if you look at Russell Wilson, right? Great quarterback, but then he also plays baseball as well.
Yeah, I don't think that's what he meant, though. I just think in terms of
that's what I'm saying.
His own sport. But
in that case, for sure, I still have Mike Trout at the top. Like, I think he's so underappreciated right now, man.
I think people our age don't appreciate baseball. Like the generation gap,
that is true.
Slowly moving away from baseball and into every other sport, which it's interesting. And the MLB needs to get on top of that.
Yeah. No, I definitely do agree with that point as well. Like if you look at baseball games, all like the older folks there, right? So I do. Obviously, there's a lot of kids there as well, and a lot of kids playing baseball in the
Yeah,
States.
for
So
sure.
it's a lot bigger there, whereas in over here, when the Jays are in the playoffs and it's Canada's team, everyone's watching,
Of course,
right?
yeah.
But then when they're not, when they're doing bad, then it's like, okay, are they getting that attention? So I feel like because of that, Mike Trout doesn't get that attention, at least from here, from what I've seen personally.
Yeah.
But he definitely deserves a hell of a lot more for sure. Just the
I
way
completely agree.
he's
Like
dominating the
if
game.
you're a hardcore baseball fan, there's no
Yeah,
better time to be a hardcore baseball fan than right
right.
now.
Then right now,
Getting to
100%.
see
Yeah,
an incredible amount of talent
yeah.
at an extremely high level. And
Well,
if you
we're
look at
like so lucky at the same time as well, thinking about all the athletes in our like from at least from my personal like from what I've seen personally.
sure,
Seeing LeBron James play, right? Seeing
absolutely,
Messi and Ronaldo battle it out like as the two greatest soccer players of all time,
yep,
right? And then obviously Sidney Crosby, guy who really
yeah,
I started watching hockey because of McDavid. Matthews now. Jack Eichel hopefully gets his shit together for next year. He's out of
yeah.
Buffalo and then
No, seriously, it's an
gets
incredible
going.
time for sport, and a
Yeah, no,
lot of
100%.
this is almost. I feel like in every era, you'll see a few sports figures that will be
Yeah,
determined as like, oh, they might have a chance at redefining the
yeah.
game, or the way they play gives them a chance to be the greatest of all time. Maybe
Hmm.
not so much in hockey because
Yeah,
Gretzky's records are almost impossible
yeah,
to break,
yeah,
but you do see that, and that's why I feel like in today's world we're getting a lot more than the average. Like LeBron, Lewis Hamilton would be one in
yep,
Formula One, Leo Messi in football or soccer, and then obviously McDavid could go down as a potential top 5, top 10 player of all time. So
yeah.
very interesting where we're coming at from this kind of era of sports. But I think we both are in agreement now that Mike Trout is probably the most dominant athlete. I
Yeah,
think you can make the case
100%.
it's LeBron, but we're gonna go with Mike Trout. Give us your
We're
take.
gonna, yeah.
Give us
The
your
thing
take
is,
if you feel different.
yeah. So I mean, the thing is with McDavid, if he can continue his scoring pace from this year into an 82 game period
Oh,
next year,
I
because
know.
they are saying that they will be changing obviously the format of the conferences and everything. So there won't be a North Division with all the Canadian teams. They
Right.
will be doing an East-West conference and then their own divisions within, just how it used to be last year. So if he can, because a lot of people are saying, which I think is ridiculous, that it's a North Division, it's easy. They're all NHL players. They all made it to the big leagues, and they're all playing at the same competitive level, right? So if he's doing it, why aren't other players doing it?
Right.
So if he can continue it next year, right, then yeah, like I would put McDavid in my top 3 for sure. If he
Yeah, I
can
think I would
dominate,
too.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. But then also playoffs starting soon as well, right? So let's see how he takes his level. Like if Edmonton's a team to beat out of the North and they make it all the way to the semifinals and they play a team like Colorado, for example,
Right.
then that's where he'll truly be tested if what people are saying is true with the North being easier now,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? So I guess it is a patience game right now, but I still think there's no one better than McDavid in hockey as of today.
I think we're gonna trigger a lot of people with the Trout over LeBron thing. But you know what? If you want to
If
give
you're
us your
getting
take,
triggered over
let me
that
know.
point, if you're getting triggered over that point, start watching baseball.
That's
That's all I
true.
gotta say. That's
Exactly.
all I gotta say. That's all
100%.
I have to say. All right, so let's move on to hockey. Next week we have, or sorry, not next week. This Friday, Saturday, we have the
Yeah.
playoffs starting, right? So which is really exciting. Finally, last night Colorado's win over LA. I don't know how I forgot that, but they were playing the Kings. They won 5-1, and that sealed their President's Trophy, but also finalized all the matchups throughout the league as well. So what we're gonna do for this next bit is just go over each matchup, just go over the players that are part of each team, and then give our take on who we think comes out of the first round. I think we're just gonna stay there rather than predict everything,
Yeah.
but
I
just
gotta
keep it
leave
at that.
some. Gotta leave
You
some
you
matchups for
got
the
it, yeah.
future.
So let's start off in the East Division. So there are 2 matchups, or let's just go off where they finished. So the Penguins finished first, and then you got the Washington Capitals and the Boston Bruins second and third, and then you have the Islanders in fourth. So obviously the matchups are the Penguins against the Islanders, and then the Capitals against the Bruins. Crosby versus John Tavares' ex team,
Yeah.
with Matt
Exactly.
Barzal. And then Ovechkin going up against Bergeron or Chara's playing his old team, which is going to be interesting and
See,
really fun.
I don't
to
even
watch.
think this matchup's going to be particularly close, if I'm honest. I think the New York
What's your
Islanders
matchup?
are going to sweep the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think I got the Islanders in 4 or 5. I got the Islanders
See,
in 4 or 5. And
4
the
or 5.
reason
Okay.
the reason I say this is because Tristan Jarry has been horrendous to end the season. He
Yeah,
started off pretty good, but he's been terrible. So they don't really have any goaltending. Malkin just coming off an injury, so they don't have that dominant second line center. And the Islanders are extremely tough to play against. They're
Well, see the thing
difficult.
with the Islanders, because I noticed this yesterday, and I've honestly, like, I'm a big stats guy. Like, I'll always look at team stats here and there just randomly. Even if I'm having trouble sleeping at night, I'll just open up my phone, see where guys are at. Just I don't know why. And the one thing I always notice is that the guy leading in goals and the guy leading assists sometimes can be different, but it's one of those two guys that always lead in points as well. You'll never see a different name for each category and then points in total, which New York has. So, you know, New York has Brock Nelson with 18 goals. Not too many, but it's helping out the guys that are on the team. Nick Leddy, their defenseman, with 29 assists as their highest leading assist getter. And then you have Matt Barzal with 45 points. So if there's 3 different guys that are scoring at high paces throughout the season, which just shows that they have scoring depth on their team. Whereas if you look at if you look at Pittsburgh, it's Crosby with 24 goals. Crosby and Letang tied with 38 assists, and then Crosby has the most points at 62.
Yeah, I think the key thing with this matchup is by far Varlamov's one of the most underrated goalies in the league. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that New York has such great defense and such great depth of scoring. Like, they're so spread out that each line is so hard to play against.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is very top heavy, and they're also not the Pittsburgh of old. Like, Crosby's not scoring at a McDavid-like pace anymore.
No.
Malkin's hurt. He had a really rough season. So they're going to be chipping and pulling away to try and beat this Islanders team. And I really do think it's Islanders in 5 or perhaps even a sweep. We'll see.
I see. The thing with me is I do agree with you with the Islanders winning, but I would say probably in 6, maybe 7.
Right.
Only reason why it's because you can't count Crosby out.
I'm with you.
In any chance you can't cross, like, I don't know. He's him and Malkin. I do understand that Malkin's coming back from injury, but when they're in the playoffs, both of them just tend to switch a gear. We didn't see it last year when they played Montreal, but you know, that could be more fueling power for them to kind of turn around this year, right? Yep. I still don't see Pittsburgh beating New York just because of the way their team is built. Right. And I do agree with you with Tristan Jarry not playing his best hockey recently, and then the goalie tandems were 1-2. I think New York has a second best in the league after Vegas.
Yeah.
If you look at the numbers, Varlamov had a 2.04 goals against average with a 9.29 or 0.929 save percentage, which is ridiculous to begin with for the whole season. And that's him playing 36 games over the season with some injuries in between.
So we both got the Islanders beating Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I think I'm obviously 4 or 5. You say 6 or 7. We'll see what happens.
So moving on, we'll go on to the next series, which is the Caps and the Bruins.
Caps are going to win. Moving on.
I don't think so, man.
Had to do it.
I as much as we both dislike Boston a lot because of our own trauma that we've been through.
Toronto bias, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I still think the Boston pull this one off in 7 games. The only reason why it's because the goaltending for Washington isn't consistent enough. Whereas in Tuukka Rask, he's known for turning up his play in the playoffs, and then they have a great backup in Halak as well. I think he's injured right now, but Swayman has been decent for them as of late as well.
And on top of that, they loaded up at the deadline. They got a guy like Taylor.
They got Taylor Hall. Yeah, you know, just some average guy that you called last week, I guess.
He's been ripping it up. I give him credit.
I'm telling you, man.
But he's blatantly, if the Boston Bruins win the cup, he's blatantly a second line player on a championship team. So we'll see. But
I guess so. I guess that is fair. If you're playing behind Bergeron, like
Pasternak
I agree.
and Marchand,
yeah, no, 100%. Like, so the thing with that is, I think the line, because Pasternak was hurt to start the year, Marchand was hurt to start the year. They added Taylor Hall at the deadline. They have great defensemen as well throughout the lineup, and then they have 2 great goalies as well. So I think that's like a key thing that you'll notice as we move on in this series is that goalies are a huge part for a great team.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas in Washington, you have Ovechkin who just got back from injury, just like Malkin for Pittsburgh, right? But again, you can never count Ovi out. Like there's
Yeah,
just
I
another.
agree. There's
That's
just
why
something
these
about
guys.
dominant players where you have to
Exactly.
give them. They've won Stanley Cups before.
Yeah.
They're going to take their team deep.
Yeah.
It's going to be a
Plus,
very interesting matchup.
plus on top of that, this series will be, it's gonna be a heavy series with hard hits and just great
Absolutely.
hockey all around.
Absolutely.
Where I do see it going to 7 games, which will be because if Washington does have home advantage, it will be in Washington. But I still see Boston coming out of this series, even though they've had a great season series over the course of the year as well. For playoffs, I tend to not look at what the season record was because it does not matter. Obviously, if you look at Edmonton, Ottawa, then where Edmonton swept the whole season.
I think it matters a little bit. I think you got to look at like their play.
To an extent, I'd say. To an extent, I wouldn't say where it's like, Toronto, Montreal, or even let's say Ottawa and Edmonton. Edmonton swept Ottawa. I wouldn't say that Ottawa wouldn't be able to get at least one game in there. I would still say yes, Edmonton comes out in that series.
Right.
But with this series, especially, like anything can go on. Where it can be Washington in like 6 or 5, but my pick for this series is definitely Boston in 7.
Boston in 7. Okay, I'm gonna go Washington in 6, but we'll see how it unfolds.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Breaking down Colorado and St. Louis, that's an easy one. That's an easy one for me. I got Colorado's my Stanley Cup pick. I love them. They're so deep. They got Grubauer, who's just probably like the most underrated goalie in the league. I think part of that is him having played for a team like Colorado where they're so deep everywhere. Got like Makar.
Well, see, at the start of the season, that was the question with Colorado. It's like, can their goaltending come through for them? They have great defensemen. They have obviously great offense.
Yeah.
But it was the question mark was over their goalies, which I think Grubauer did prove over the course of the season that he is their ace.
Yeah,
and that he will be the one that can potentially lead them to a Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
I don't think so. In terms of winning the cup, obviously they are. I do see them making the finals, but I don't know if they can carry it all the way there.
Gotcha.
Who knows? Maybe Kadri might get suspended for a Tom Wilson hit.
Yeah, I hope so. No succeeding for Kadri. Sorry,
maybe.
buddy.
But I don't know. St. Louis is a great team. They obviously won the cup 2 years ago.
Yeah. A lot of depth.
A lot of depth as well. The only thing I just don't see Bennington playing the way he played 2 years ago.
I agree.
This year, I just don't see it happening. He had a really troubling start to the season. Definitely hurt my fantasy team.
Oh, yours and mine both. Just a disaster for Jordan this year.
So I don't know. Like he has picked up his play recently in the last 2 weeks of hockey that we had there. But I'd still say Colorado. I think this is my sweep for the series.
Interesting.
I say Colorado sweeps St. Louis, obviously in 4 games.
Okay.
But I just don't see St. Louis coming out of the first round.
Interesting. I think I'm the same. I think I got Colorado in 5, but I think it's very similar.
Yeah.
There. And then similar to them, we got Vegas and Minnesota.
This is my upset. This is my upset of upset pick. I got the Wild.
I see it. Oh,
I've been watching a bit of the Wild games recently.
Kirill the thrill, eh? He's just gonna upset the
there's
juggernaut.
Only one thrill. There's only one thrill in the league.
Yeah,
and it's Phil the thrill. Okay, Kirill can take a sidestep and stay where he is, but it's Phil the thrill. Let me just make that clear. But anyways, he's definitely winning the Calder. I think he's run away with it. Although Jason Robertson did pick it up at the end of the season there, but Kaprizov is just that much better.
He's so good.
Leading the team in goals with 27 and points with 51. Right,
as a rookie, which is
exactly. But the thing with Kaprizov and the Wild is that they're so unpredictable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they'll be down. Sometimes they'll be down 3 goals and they'll come back to win 5-4 or 5-3 or whatever the score would be at the end to get a dub at the end. But then it could be the opposite as well. Like if you look at last night, they were up 3-0 at the end of the first against St. Louis, and then St. Louis scores 7 unanswered goals.
Yeah, it's insane.
And wins 7-3. So I'm like, okay, well, it's a bit shaky. But the thing is, I don't know. I have a gut feeling where Minnesota comes and wins. Again, I'll give it 7 games for this series because it'll be tight checking as well.
Right.
Because Vegas is the complete team right now in hockey, which is why this upside would make it even bigger.
I agree.
Because they've got great goal scoring with Pacioretty and Mark Stone leading the team. And then obviously great goaltending and defending or defensemen as well with their recent signing over the offseason with Petrangelo. And then the two best goalies or the two best goalie tandem in the league because they did win the William Jennings Award with Fleury and Leonard. Now in terms of playoffs, like before we do move on, who would you start if you were Vegas?
I mean, for me, it's got to be
Go with
Fleury.
the bet?
Yeah, it's got to be Fleury, and the
yeah.
reason for that is he's got better stats marginally than Leonard. Obviously, Leonard was injured, so there's a bit of that trouble there.
Well,
but
Leonard did have a long leave from the team, right? That's why Fleury got to play the majority of the games. He's played 36 games this year, and then Leonard played
under 2 goals against a game. His save percentage is absolutely insane. It's like at the top of his career, like 928. And then on top of that, he's won 3 Stanley Cups already, or he's made it to.
He's won 3 and made it to 5. Yeah, he made it to 5 finals.
How do you not start Fleury? Borderline.
I'm with you. I would start Fleury as well. It's just that Leonard's just that good.
They'll probably rotate. I would just give Fleury the most games that you can.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the thing with Minnesota is that they also have a great rookie goaltender in Kaapo Kähkönen.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. He's also proven to be great over the course of the season, winning 16 games out of the 24 he's played in. Whereas in Cam Talbot, his numbers are okay, but I would still trust a rookie and then let the rookies lead Minnesota.
They've got what's your prediction for the series? What do you got them in?
This series, I got Minnesota in 7. That's my upset.
In 7, okay.
In 7, yeah.
I'll take Vegas in 6, but I think it's going to be definitely a series to watch. For sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. But yeah, let's move on to the Central Division.
Yeah, these are going to be crazy.
Yeah, so Carolina, surprisingly, so at the start of the season, my personal pick for this division was Tampa Bay running away.
Yeah, I don't know anymore though.
I went as far as saying that they would win the President's Trophy. They finish first. They just dominate this division so much.
Yeah,
where they'll just be the best team in hockey.
Carolina's underrated, man. They're so good and they're so deep.
Man, I did not see Tampa finishing third.
No, I
just did not see that happening. Like honestly, I was shocked to see that.
They're not even the best team in Florida.
Yeah,
it's insane.
That's what surprised me. So Carolina finishing first, the Panthers finishing second, Lightning coming in third, and then it sucked to see the Preds finish fourth. I really wanted to see Chicago in there. I don't know. I just really like the young guys on their team, Patty Kane as well, and then the great story behind their rookie goaltender Kevin Lankinen.
Yeah,
the guy, he just he picked it up at really at the start of the season when he was just put in where he wasn't really didn't know what he was doing.
Incredible.
And they just missed the playoffs, which is like, man, like it would have been so cool to see that. But in terms of series wise, Carolina and the Preds, I obviously have Carolina winning in 5. I'll give the Preds 1 game because I still believe in either one of their goaltenders. I personally would start Pekka Rinne. Maybe I just have a soft spot for the guy. He's just been a great goaltender for a while.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. Like he's a vet in that situation. Although Saros's numbers have been decent, I would still give Rinne more games in that series. I'd say.
Having had Saros on my fantasy team, I can tell you he is absolutely fantastic, and I would give him the number 1 job for sure. He's he's just been a rock for them. But honestly, Carolina dominates them on defense with the part of Roman Josi. Carolina's defense is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
They're so good that Jake Gardner got cut, which is bananas. Aho is an incredible scorer. You got guys like Nito Niederreiter for depth. You got guys like Vincent Trocheck. All these guys are 20-plus goal scorers in a regular full season. Is an incredible team.
No, I agree with you on that. Like I think Carolina just dominates Nashville in all aspects of the game.
Yeah.
And the biggest question mark for Carolina, which is I think the best question mark to have, is your goaltending. Like you got Alexander Delskovic, who's literally turned it around, having a 1.9 goals against average, which is lower than Fleury's, which is insane, and a 932 save percentage.
Yep.
Right. He's won 15 of the 23 games he's played in. And then you have Mrazek, who's hurt for a large chunk of the season, right? So he only got into 12 games, winning 6 of them.
For sure.
And then you got James Reimer. Right. So
and you have so much depth. Like it's not even like you have one guy. If a guy goes down, you still have 2 very capable goalies, which is
that's what I'm saying. So at the end of the season,
something else.
They're carrying their 3 goalies, but what 2 do you have on the ice, or like on the ice and on the bench?
I mean, you don't start Reimer.
I was gonna say that as well. only reason why I wouldn't start Reimer is because Nedeljkovic is playing lights out right now,
Mhm.
and Mrazek is your starter.
I
I
agree.
wouldn't put him in the press box, because the way they were doing it at the end of the season, their last 5 or 6 games, was that they would rotate each night. So the
Yeah.
first night Alex would be in the press box, the next night it would be Mrazek, the third night it would be Reimer, and then they would
Right.
rotate the starting goalies at that point as well.
Yeah,
And
Reimer's
that's
going to have a reserve
where,
seat in the press box coming up here for the playoffs. He's not going to touch
Yeah.
the bench.
yeah, maybe he'll be Seattle starter. Who knows? We'll see
Yeah,
what
we'll
direction
see.
they go. But yeah, like I would personally keep my rookie in Nedeljkovic going throughout the playoffs, and just really put all my trust onto him and keep him going. And then Mrazek obviously being a great backup in the league as well,
Sure.
and for Carolina. So yeah, I think Carolina takes this in 5. I'll give Nashville at least one game because of their depth as well.
Yep.
If you look at like 2 years ago, it was Nashville having the best defense in the league with
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yoti, Ekholm, and a bunch of other guys as well, that were just all pretty much in their prime.
Yeah, we could
Subban
break
at
down
one point as
Nashville's
well.
disaster GMing for a while, but I think we should probably
We should definitely move on.
Florida, Tampa here.
Yeah, well, the Battle of Florida right here with the Panthers and Tampa.
It's going to be such an exciting series. For me, I love the fact that I think Florida is going to win this one because, and here's my reasoning. It's a very controversial take. They finished ahead of them in the standings. Barkov, to me, has become a top 5 player. He is so underrated.
He's the most, I was just about to say he's the most underrated
incredible
player.
He's such a two-way player. He's like a Bergeron with more offensive ability, which is insane. And maybe not to the extent Bergeron plays D, but he has become a very similar player with just an insane offensive ability. They got Sam Bennett at the deadline, who for some reason has resurrected himself and become this incredible player. I think in part due to playing with Huberdeau, but an insane team. Obviously, goaltending is a big question mark with them. Bobrovsky was signed to this mega contract and has never worked out for him. But to me, Florida is so good, and Tampa, while getting Kucherov back, which if he plays well, you got to give the series to Tampa. Yeah. Same with Stamkos. Like, they're getting 2 of their absolute biggest heavy hitters back, but Hedman needs surgery, so he's playing injured, so that's big. So we'll see. I mean, Hedman for sure is going to be a big question mark on their blue line. If he doesn't get it together, then they're probably in some trouble.
But the thing with Hedman is that he's got Sergachev on his line.
Yeah.
They're pairing. Yeah. And they both complement each other very well.
Oh, I agree. I just think that towards the end of the year, Hedman kind of fell off his regular pace.
Well, that's because of the injury, right?
For sure. Yeah,
like he said, he came out and said he does need surgery, but he's getting it after his season's over. Mm-hmm. So whether that means if Tampa wins a cup, which I don't see happening, or whenever they get eliminated, he'll get surgery like the next day. Also have Braden Point, who had a very slow year, hurt my fantasy for sure.
I know, man. I'm with you.
But then you have the best goaltender in the league in Vasilevsky.
Yeah,
backing you up
there for sure. And that's the thing. It's like if Tampa gets it together, they're bar none the favorite. Kucherov plays like the MVP we know he is. He's the favorite. I mean,
the crazy part about Tampa's team is that Vasilevsky had a goals against average of 2.21.
Yeah.
And his save percentage was 0.925, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's won 31 games of the 42 he started, so he's only lost 9 games.
Yep.
11 games. And then the rest of the 14 games that they had, McElhinney didn't win much as their backup.
McElhinney was a disaster for sure. They needed a backup. Baz is going to start every game in the playoffs. So
100%. I don't see anyone else. Rate. Yeah. But that's the point where I'm trying to say is that Vasilevsky is a goalie compared to like Carey Price, where they can win series for their teams.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. He's the type of goalie.
So.
And Florida doesn't have that.
So what's your take on who's coming? You said Florida's coming out of this league.
I do. I think that if Kucherov, this is a big question mark for me because I think Florida comes out if Kucherov and Stamkos don't play like themselves because they've been injured. So if they come back and they play like themselves and they're in MVP form, I think Tampa probably wins. But for me, if they don't, then I think Florida's going to take it and it's going to be 6 or 7.
So 6 or 7, you got the Panthers coming out
for sure.
For sure. Okay. So I got Tampa in 6.
Okay.
Even if Kucherov and Stamkos don't play like Kucherov and Stamkos.
Right.
And I'm strictly just saying that because of their experience that they have on their team.
Absolutely.
From the last 4 or 5 years that they've been in the playoffs.
Gotcha.
And how deep they go every year.
For sure.
Right. they definitely do have Stamkos coming back, and then Kucherov is still iffy because they haven't confirmed anything yet. But even having Stamkos playing the most minimum minutes you can play as a forward, and just being on the bench itself, like that's great to have on a team like Tampa.
Couldn't agree more.
I have them winning in 6, like I said. I just don't see. I hope Florida proves me wrong, right? But I just have Tampa winning in 6 this series. All right, so for the North Division, we're not going over that today. It's just a heads up for everyone listening. We will be having a special episode that we're filming on Monday with a special guest, our first guest of the season. And we will be releasing that episode sometime Wednesday afternoon, I want to say, right before Thursday, where the first game of Toronto Montreal takes place, right before that whole series in the North Division playoffs start as well.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that one. We'll be giving our take on the Leafs' absolutely tragic playoff past here, and every other North Division matchup.
Yeah.
You're going to want to tune in.
Yeah, so just tune in for that. It'll be a smaller episode, but just strictly focusing on the North playoffs, and we'll go from there. All right, so for the last segment today, I know we have been going on for a little longer, but what we're planning on doing every week is more of a question segment to kind of get all of you, the viewers and the listeners, involved as well. So Jake and I on our Instagrams, personal Instagrams, again, I guess we can start on our page's Instagram as well.
Yeah,
every week, a couple days before we start filming, we'll upload a story where we'll ask you guys to ask questions, and then we'll answer them on the podcast. So we did that this week. Jake's got about a couple questions on his list, and then I have a few as well. So I'll let Jake start, and then we'll go right into it.
Yeah, so the first one I got was from my buddy Jason. He asked, if you got $5 million one time, right? But then for the rest of your life, you have a prime Randy Johnson, who is an elite MLB pitcher. If you're not familiar with Randy Johnson in the 90s, he could throw 100 miles an hour.
Okay.
He gets to follow you around, right? You don't know when it's coming. You don't know where it's coming, but he will beam you with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball once a year for the rest of your life. Would you take a $5 million payment, or would you take the fastball? Are you taking the $5 million?
What if it's to the head?
That's the thing, you don't know.
Right?
And that's my concern, because for me, I don't think I'm going to take the money, because I would be so scared that he's going to beam me in my sleep. One of these years, you're going to be going out, you're going to be having a drink with your buddies, and then Randy Johnson's going to walk by and wink at you, and I'm going to shit myself. That's what's going to happen. I already know.
I'm taking the money.
You're taking the money, yeah?
I'm taking the money.
You're gonna
I'll probably
luck
catch
with Randy Johnson.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. You know, having a cricket background, I've been hit by a few pitches in my days here and there.
100 miles an hour from
definitely not 100 miles.
Feet.
Definitely not 100 miles. But you know, well, first of all, if you're throwing at 100 miles from 4 feet, it wouldn't get to 100 miles because acceleration doesn't work that way.
Right.
Because it's not a car. So, you know, for him to pitch 100 miles, he does have to be at some sort of distance, right? Where at that point, I'll see it coming.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
So I have like a half a second or literally a millisecond to get away from it.
It's interesting.
Right? I'm taking my chances. And if it's once a year, if I'm hurt for like a week, I'm okay with that for $5 million.
That's the thing, right? I think once you got the $5 million, you'd be like, oh, this is a breeze. But then every January 1st, you would go back to wanting to die. You'd be like, Randy's coming.
It's pain for, like, you'll feel the pain for maybe an hour at most. Yeah, but and then you'll have like a sore arm or leg or wherever he hits you for maybe a week. And that's it. Sure.
But also, what a weird relationship you're going to have with an MLB Hall of Famer.
Hey, I'll take the $5 million. I don't mind. I don't mind. All right, well, let's move on to your second question. Let's see what you got.
Yes, the second question is, do you guys think the Leafs have what it takes to win the Cup this year? I think that is like a little preview as to our upcoming podcast on Monday.
Before we do continue on, though, I do have my buddy Azam. He asked a question, and he's like, you know, why does everyone have faith in the Leafs? Is there another first-round exit coming soon? Now,
to answer your question, Azam, probably. But
no,
but
see, a little background on this guy is he's just hated the Leafs his whole life. He doesn't. Gotcha. He's more of a basketball guy, so he'll chirp me anytime. Right. And every time we'd go to a game and the Leafs would lose, I'd hear it from them.
Of course.
So he'll always he'll always have this question, no matter what series the Leafs are in, no
Right.
matter how far they've made it.
Right.
But I personally think,
I'm
or
disappointed.
we'll save the answer for the video that's coming out Wednesday. And
I think that's what I was going to say. Let's save
yeah,
that for the podcast coming out
sounds good.
on Wednesday.
Yeah.
The next one I got is, for you personally, what do you think is the most unbreakable record in sports? And I'd love to hear everyone else's take on a few of these questions. So feel free to DM us on Instagram. But yeah, what do you think is the most unbreakable record in sports for you?
Maybe Berder's like wins record. He's got like 661 wins.
Yeah,
right.
That's
now
true.
The way, see, I could say Gretzky as well if we're just sticking to hockey.
It's got to be Wayne. It's got to be.
But the thing is, like, McDavid just like scored 100 and he's at 104 in 55 games for the season.
Yeah.
Right. Take that into account for 82 games and he's at 155 to 160. Yeah. Right. Era adjusted, obviously.
Right.
So because of that, like, it might be possible with the likes of Connor Bedard coming up and all the other Shane Wright next year. I believe
maybe era adjusted. Like,
right.
Maybe, but personally for me, right, I think I wouldn't even say it's Wayne's season record. It's his total points for his career. Nobody's touching it.
Yeah.
Like, no one will ever touch that in the history of sports. He's got more assists than the second person has points.
Yeah. No,
it's insane.
I do agree with that point to an extent, but with the way the goalies are playing now, I just don't see anyone coming close to Brodeur, because if you look at it, all the goalies, each team wants a 1A, 1B type goalie on their team, and they're not starting 40 games anymore. Like, I think Vasilevsky played the most games this season at 42.
Right.
It's not like before where Fleury's playing like 65 games or Price is playing 65 games out of a 82 game season where they're just solely relying on that guy.
While I agree with you, Fleury I think he's now up to third in wins all time or something along those lines.
But he's still like 200.
Yeah, he's
plus
200
away.
Plus back. He would have to play a ridiculous amount of games to come close to the record. And I do think that in the future, you're right. Brodeur was playing 70 games a year. He was getting almost no nights
he had no
off.
rest. And then
it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah. And he's playing all the games in the playoffs as well, winning cups and scoring goals.
But why I think Gretzky's more unbreakable is simply because he has no competition. Brodeur has Fleury still. He'll probably.
I wouldn't say the reason I wouldn't say Fleury's a competition for Brodeur, because Fleury has maybe 3 years left.
Potentially. Right? I mean, you never know, though. I mean, he could easily play till 40 if he wants.
If he plays till 40, there's no way he's starting more than 30 games a season.
Right.
At least I hope not, for the team's sake. Like, I just don't see that happening. And if he starts 40 games, let's say he does play 40 games a season for the next 5 years, that's 200 games. And let's say that he's only 200 games behind in wins. Yeah. He's not winning all 200 games.
You're right. Yeah, there's no way.
You have Gretzky's record. That you
got Brodeur's.
And I got Brodeur's. Okay. Fair enough.
So, and then my final question I had to pose, and again, this poses to everybody. Feel free to give us your take on this. But if you could bring back one player in their prime today to compete in any sport, what would you do? What would you bring back? So, in terms of all of sports, I have two answers. I'd want to see Gretzky play. Sure. Because I want to see, like, in this era, how just going down a hockey theme, I love it. But that's why I said I have two, because then I want to see Jordan battle it out with LeBron as well. It's my thing too. I just want to see. Obviously, I'm sure everyone's seen the Last Dance documentary on Netflix, right? Yep. So that was my first time really watching Jordan play. Yeah. I really never saw his highlights or much. I just knew that he was a fantastic basketball player. But if I was to bring back one person, I'd definitely bring back either or Jordan or Gretzky, just to see them play in their prime. Yeah, it would be incredible. See how they would dominate the game. Chicago Bulls team, which is garbage. Well, see, not Gretzky. Look, Jordan played like plumbers and garbage men. Whereas if you look at the NBA now, it's like they're all freak athletes. Yep. They're all like crazy in the way. The whole game in both sports has changed all around, where it's like I just don't see Jordan being as so insane. Plus the amount of physical basketball that was played back then, these guys were still 7 feet. These guys were still massive. Like a guy like Karl Malone would still dominate in today's basketball, and Jordan tore him apart. So it's going to be be very interesting. Plus, if Jordan decided to play the physical level that he played back then, I think it's over for everybody.
Let's move on to, a couple questions that I received. So Asad, my friend, he's a little childish, a little crazy, I'd say. So he has a question for you.
For me.
Yeah, and he's like, do you think Dogecoin will hit $1?
Dogecoin to the moon, baby. I don't know if you caught Elon on SNL, but
No, he did.
Elon's obsessed with Dogecoin.
Yeah.
And until Elon is not obsessed with Dogecoin, it's Dogecoin to the moon. He is literally gone about trying to. Dogecoin is a meme coin. It's a complete crapshoot, and he's gone about trying to make it legitimate, which is crazy. So
I hate talking about crypto and all this kind of stuff, but it's up 18 cents today.
Dogecoin to the moon.
Right.
Yeah. So Assad, absolutely to the moon. Dogecoin.
I don't think so.
I think it does eventually hit $1 at some point. But again, I'm talking out of my ass. This is not advice to invest in
I just don't.
But Dogecoin to the moon.
I don't know. I think Elon's a very smart man. The second it gets close to $1, I think he's maybe sells all of his shares.
Yeah, we'll see. Right? Probably avoid investing, but to the moon.
See, that's what I'm not investing any of my money in any crypto.
Yeah.
But I'm watching it because it's just fun to watch.
Crypto itself's a smart investment. Dogecoin, it's very debatable.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
But anyways, what's the next question?
Yeah, so Adil, he's a good friend of mine, one of my coaches, I'd say. Is Max married full-time or part-time? Now, Max is an interesting figure, I'd say. But I would say he's both. He's married full-time at home, but part-time to the game. He's Whitby
part-time to the game.
Part-time to the game. He's Whitby, Ontario's hero, I'd say, in terms of the cricket world. Launching off his own team there.
Big city.
But yeah, that's my answer to that.
Shout out Whitby.
Shout out Whitby. Yeah, who goes to Whitby, right? But yeah, okay. Let's move on. There's a special question for you here.
Oh yeah.
From a special someone.
Oh,
if you remember Jasmine.
I remember.
Now she's of course you. She wants to ask you, or she's wondering if she can marry you, man. Like,
wow.
I don't know.
Love my fans. I don't sit her down on one knee with a ring. So until that happens, it's gonna be a no. But if she wants to go buy a very expensive ring, then I might have to reconsider.
She has to buy the expensive ring. Come on.
Well, man. I mean, if she has to woo me, I don't see what's going on here. I can't say yes to a proposal. I haven't been wooed.
All right. Well, I guess Jasmine, you have your answer right there.
Clock's ticking, Jasmine.
Well, are you giving it a deadline, or is it just like anytime?
Yeah, we'll leave it open, but gotta be wooed.
Okay.
I can't commit myself without being wooed. What is this?
That's fair enough. All right, let's move on to again Asad. Why am I saying Asad? Asad, back to another question. He's a big basketball guy, loves basketball, and his favorite player is Derrick Rose. So he wants to know what your thoughts are on Derrick Rose, and if he will ever be in the Hall of Fame.
See, it's an interesting take because obviously everybody knows the injury with Derrick Rose is what derailed his entire career. But before then, the MVP season,
the youngest ever.
Yeah, and it was also a monumental season. Like Derrick Rose was an incredible basketball player. I do, however, think that people overhype the Derrick Rose MVP season. Like people say I do think that no doubt in my head he's a surefire Hall of Famer if he doesn't get hurt. I still think, to answer Assad's question, he is a surefire Hall of Famer, but I think there's a debate to be made that his MVP season was not as incredible as people make it out to be. I think there's a lot of Derrick Rose fans that statistic-wise are just in love with the fact that he could have been this consistent player. And I think while he is no doubt a Hall of Famer, because if you have an MVP season, if you put up numbers like he did, then I think that you have to be in the Hall of Fame. But and especially his comeback. I mean, that's a whole nother thing.
Like the 50-point game I think he had a couple years ago was nuts. Just everything around his story alone, like you can make a documentary out of it.
Absolutely.
Put it out. I want to say, I think the only reason or the only way for him to make it to the Hall of Fame is staying that youngest like NBA rookie ever to win the MVP.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Or the youngest player ever to win the MVP. Because obviously in the Hall of Fame you'll have like being at the actual NBA Hall of Fame. You'll have him there. But in terms of being in the Hall of Fame, if you know what I mean, like I just don't see it happening.
You don't think he gets inducted?
No.
I think when you have a guy who was able to lead his team the way Derrick Rose was and was as talented and such a freak athlete as Derrick Rose was, and to win an MVP in the era of LeBron and in the era of Kevin Durant and Dwayne Wade and all these incredible scorers, Kobe Bryant, for him to win an MVP in that era, you almost have to put him in the Hall just for that. So we'll see.
I don't know.
Very interesting debate.
Like he hasn't won a ring yet, right?
No, but I'm on Offside's team on this one. I think Derrick Rose is a surefire.
I just don't see it happening. I'm sorry. All right. Well, last question for the day.
What do we got?
It's a great question. It's from my buddy Ethan. And the reason why I say that for last, I think it's a great question, and we'll do like a two-parter.
Sure.
So what Ethan is asking is, what 4 Toronto sports legends would you put up on your Toronto sports Mount Rushmore? Now, the way I want to break it into 2 parts is, the first is obviously Toronto sports all around.
Right.
And then the second would be just, Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, who would be your top 5? Now, the way I want to answer this question is, I don't want to look at the history books and then say, oh, like, you got Vince Carter in there, you got, Dave Keon,
right?
All these old hockey players and basketball players that I never saw play in my time. I'm not going to put them on there. I'm going to see who I've witnessed live.
Okay.
Like, within the last decade or 2 that I've seen play for Toronto sports. So I'll answer it first. So I'll talk about Toronto sports in general. The first guy I'm having up there is Joey Bats.
No
Jose
question.
Bautista,
he's on mine
right?
too.
He's definitely on there.
You're on the Mount Rushmore.
I definitely have him up there. He's one of the greatest Blue Jays to play, and at least that I saw, right, from what I've seen, witnessed. Number 2 would be Kyle Lowry.
Okay, he's probably
one of the greatest Raptors of all time.
Yeah.
And then right beside him would be DeMar DeRozan. Ajmal, you'll probably hate this. Okay, you'll probably definitely hate this.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
But I have him up there just because he was a great basketball player for when he played for Toronto.
Here's my debate there, because I agree with Joey Bats and Kyle Lowry both.
Yeah.
I can't have DeMar on because DeMar didn't win a title. DeMar was
neither did Jose Bautista, right?
Sure, but Jose Bautista had an iconic Toronto sports moment.
No, that was fair,
It will be cemented in history. So no doubt he's on the list.
100%.
DeMar DeRozan was just a great player, and while fans love him, I agree, fans love him. He's incredible. Okay. But he's never had that moment. He never won a title here. He was just a good player when we were watching. I would have Kawhi Leonard in that spot. I was debating Kawhi Leonard. You have to have that.
See, now if we're talking about key moments, yes, 100%. Right. But if you're talking about a Mount Rushmore where it's legends of the sports that played for Toronto.
Kawhi, we don't win the title. That shot cemented him in Toronto sports legacy.
Kawhi would be up there if he re-signed with Toronto. That's my take.
But the thing is, I almost can't hate him. He came in, he did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
He has arguably had not just the greatest sports moment in, I think it's up there, top 3 greatest Toronto sports moments of all time, if not the best Toronto sports moment.
I would put it as the best until
the bat flip, if they'd gone on to win the title, might have been one of the best, but that shot is by far the most iconic Toronto sports moment.
Iconic moments, number 1 for sure.
Right.
But legends, like, you can't. Yes, he won the title. He did exactly what he said he would do. But you can't make a legend out of someone that comes in for 1 year and then leaves.
Dude, stories will be told about the fun guy who dropped into Toronto and won a title for them.
But then again, that's the moment.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like, it's almost like, but he is, the question was a Toronto sports legend. He is absolutely a Toronto sports legend.
For a moment.
Yeah, but for a year.
But then again, I said it's my take, right? Like, that's who I have. I'm not going to put Kawhi up there only for the reason why, because he was just here for a year and that was it.
When you look back on the history of the Toronto Raptors, right?
Yeah.
Kawhi is on their greatest players to ever play list.
Yeah.
Right? And if you look back at that franchise, what's the first thing you think about? You think about the Toronto Raptors and you think about the 2019 championship team. What do you think about when you think about the 2019 championship team? You think about the shot, you think about Kawhi Leonard. That's my only argument.
But it's a moment. Again, it's a moment.
You can keep saying it's a moment. Yeah. It's the most iconic moment.
It's an icon. Yeah, I agree with you in terms of being an iconic moment
in franchise history.
But I would that's like, I want to put him on my Mount Rushmore. Anyways, moving on. Okay, my fourth guy is our guy Austin Matthews for sure. Okay. He's definitely up there. He's breaking records.
I don't know, man. I would say until they win a playoff series, he's DeMar DeRozan.
He's won the Rocket Richard this year.
Yeah,
he's
no,
won the Rocket Richard this year. You can't compare him to DeMar DeRozan.
No, sure, but I'm saying as well, he is a better version of DeMar DeRozan. He's not the best player in hockey. Like, I love Austin Matthews just as much as everybody else. He's my favorite player in the NHL. But to the extent that he is already a Toronto sports legend, I think he's the best Leaf we've ever seen play on the Leafs.
That's my whole Mount Rushmore based off of
Right.
players
They
I've
haven't won
seen on,
anything.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Like,
so once once they win a playoff series, once we get past Montreal this year, knock on wood, they throw him on the Mount Rushmore, and he's definitely talent wise the Mount Rushmore right now for sure. But in terms of like iconic sports legends in Toronto, I don't know if he's
okay. So let's hear your four that you have.
So I had Joey Bats for sure, Kyle Lowry. I'd have Kawhi Leonard, and then I think my fourth one would be Matt Sundin, just because I grew up watching Matt Sundin. He's the Toronto captain in my mind.
I definitely do agree with you. The only reason why I didn't have Sundin on there was because I just didn't watch him play.
Right, that's fair.
Right, that's my only reason why. See, if I saw Sundin play, I'd switch him with DeRozan right now.
Interesting.
But I didn't. Right, okay, so that's the only reason why I don't have Sundin on there, is because I wanted to base it off of guys that I've seen play personally throughout Toronto sports, and the guys that I grew up watching, but then I'll tell my kids later on in life as well, as like, these were the guys that looked out for, 100%. Not like Wendell Clarkson. I just never saw Doug Gilmour ever play hockey, or Wendell Clark.
Absolutely fair. Yeah,
right. I just can't say much. I can watch videos on them playing and stuff. Yeah. I can hear lots of stories about them.
But you don't have the love
if I can't
for those
relate
guys.
To it, you got it. Like, if I can't relate to it, then it's like, is it worth being on my Mount Rushmore?
100%. That's
all right. So you have Jose Bautista, Kyle Lowry, Kawhi Leonard, and then Matt Sundin. Fair enough.
Which is kind of sad if you think about it, because the only guys that won a championship there were Kawhi and Kyle on the same team at the same time.
Yeah, no, that is true.
It's disappointing.
Well, Toronto hasn't won, other than the Argos and TFC winning recently. They haven't won anything other than obviously basketball.
I mean, I wouldn't really count the Argos. They're gonna push them over there, but
come on, man. You gotta respect a team sport.
A franchise bleeding money. They're
still representing Toronto.
For sure.
Gotta support them.
I don't hate on the CFL. I think it's a great league, but it's a tough team.
I don't know. Anyways, moving on to part B, or second part of this question. Just keeping it within Toronto. I want to actually, I'll go first again, because I think you'll definitely hate on it.
Sure.
My four Leafs on Mount Rushmore would definitely starting with Austin Matthews.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, it's players that I've seen.
So yeah,
I haven't seen Toronto.
If you're going on guys you've watched.
Yeah. No, that's the whole aspect of it, right? Because like, I don't want to go back into history and then like literally look up names like Frank Mahovlich or Lance or Armstrong, George Armstrong, or Dave Keon, all these guys. Like, I'm not gonna go back into history and put like Johnny Bauer up there. I've never seen a guy play.
I swear to God, if you have Phil Kessel on this list,
he's literally number 2 on my list. He's literally number 2. So I got Austin Matthews. I got Austin Matthews. I got Phil the Thrill, not Krill the Thrill, the OG Phil the Thrill, guy that if he wins a cup, or obviously he did with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So he wins a cup with Pittsburgh, and then has a photo op with hot dogs in the cup. That moment alone is better than Kawhi's shot.
That's bullshit, but what are you gonna do? It's a sick moment.
That moment alone is better than Kawhi's shot.
And who's the fourth guy?
My third guy is Morgan Reilly. Okay. My favorite Toronto defenseman of all time. Although he's having a really bad year this year, unfortunate to say. But he's one of my favorite Leafs of all time.
I think he'd be up there too.
And then the nicest goaltender in the league, James Reimer.
That's Jack Campbell for nicest goaltender in the league now, but
it's debatable. Like they'll give it to each other. It's like, no, it's you.
They probably will. Yeah, no, it's you, buddy.
Yeah, no, it's you.
But I
those are my
disagree
4
on that. I think
that's
so.
You can.
It's
your opinion.
You hit the nail on the head with Matthews and Reilly. I think those two are on there for sure. I'd obviously I'd put Sundin over Kessel. Kessel didn't win anything. He didn't win a playoff series.
He's not with Toronto.
He was a part of the most debilitating defeat in the history of the franchise.
We're not talking about that.
That's all I can think of.
See, the thing with Kessel is that he never had a 1C, like a number 1 center.
I agree.
Right? Tyler Bozak is the 4th line center for the St. Louis Blues.
Right.
The moment he signed with them. Even with that, you have Phil scoring 37 goals a season.
Yeah.
Now imagine.
Tyler,
just imagine Now I know if Kessel doesn't leave, we don't get Matthews. I
Right.
totally understand that. But imagine he had a guy like what he look at the playoffs for Pittsburgh. The first year they won. He
Listen,
got robbed.
I think
He got
Kessel's
robbed
a
of a Conn Smythe.
fantastic player, but it's just that we're talking in this particular thing of the Toronto Sports Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And when I look at Phil Kessel, I think of the Phil Kessel era as a whole
Okay.
as being a disaster. I loved the guy, but we
Yeah.
traded
No, you
Tyler
didn't. You
Sagan.
did not.
I mean,
no,
he's
trust
I
me.
loved
The reason
him.
why I'm saying that, the reason why I'm saying you didn't love him, because I got chirped every day.
Yeah, but that's just because
Every
it's fun to chirp you. As far as a Leafs player goes, he was
Fair
good.
enough.
He was a great
Yeah.
Leafs player.
Oh, he's a great.
But in terms of
greatest
that
of all time.
era, they didn't win anything. And in my head, all I have is 4-1 to Boston. That's like saying Voldemort. Like,
what I remember from that game
fan.
is Phil shooting the puck from the top of the circle, bottom right of Tuukka Rask. Tuukka Rask kicks it out,
Yeah.
right to Kadri's stick, and Kadri snipes one, and then Phil just like this, and they're like this, and I'm like,
Couldn't get it
and
done.
I'm like this, I'm like, okay. Like,
Listen, I
happening.
get it, and
And
I
then the
also
breakdown.
think he had a amazing few years. You know, he was a point of game player for a lot of that time, which you got to give him credit for. And there's no question that he's a fantastic Leaf in general.
Yeah, he was
and he's
great.
a great
Leaf. Yeah,
hockey
best of all
player.
time.
There's it's just the worst take ever. But he's not, and it's not to say he wasn't a great Leaf, and it's not to say he's not a great hockey player. It was to say that the era in which he played for the Leafs was a disaster and one that I would like to forget, if at all possible. So that's the only reason I wouldn't have him. I'd obviously swap some name. And then
I
as
would
for
forget
James
2013
Reimer,
in a heartbeat. I would try and forget 2013 in a heartbeat. Other than that, I think if you give, like, imagine a world where Phil Kessel is on a wing with Matthews as a center and then Marner on the other end. Like, that's like my dream come true.
Yeah, of course. And if we could have all that, then I'd really like a line of Gretzky in his prime with Crosby, McDavid. but unfortunately, we can't. So
for sure. But that's like the point I'm trying to make, is that if you give Kessel a number one center like he had with Malkin or Crosby, he had like 92 points that one season.
Sure, I think there's no doubt we would have been better.
Yeah, and then he got robbed of the Conn Smythe, their first Stanley Cup win.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That was a Crosby clinic, but fair enough.
He got robbed. I will die on that.
And then just to wrap this all up into one tight little bow here, James Reimer being on that list is a disgrace. Because there's two goalies that you've watched in your time that are better than James Reimer. The first of which is Freddie Anderson, who could arguably go down as like a top 3 goalie in NHL or in franchise history.
The only reason why I didn't put Freddie on there is just because it's this year. Like, I'm just so disappointed.
Yeah, I know, man.
He's definitely. I would say he's my favorite goalie of all time to wear a Leaf sweater. But you got to put Reimer up there.
I would put. For me, it's Ed Balfour.
Actually, now that
you never watched Ed Balfour, so for me, he's on the list. I got his poster right up in my room over there. It's
like to be fair, like 3 guys on my list right here are guys part of that 2013 team. Like, if I was to switch Matthews with like Kadri,
right,
that's a team right there.
Yeah,
I would never ever
the guys. You know, you grow up watching them, you love them, especially during your childhood. It's different than watching it in your 20s.
Yeah, I'd never ever put what's it called. Jake Gardner out there ever.
No, it's terrible.
But coming to a point. Actually, one more thing, and then to wrap up this podcast is adding on to that question. Let's start at part C in terms of hockey outside of Toronto or including Toronto. I guess who would be your Mount Rushmore there?
Just in general, eh?
Yeah.
Oof, that's so tough. In terms of like all sports.
Yes, not all sports, just hockey, like the NHL. Within the last since the 2000 or since you've been watching hockey, I'd say.
Oh, okay,
since '97.
So Crosby's obviously up there. You have to put him up there. Ovechkin's up there.
Yeah.
Came into the league at the same time. McDavid for sure. That'd be 3.
Okay.
Martin Brodeur, because he's the best goalie I've ever seen.
So that's your 4. You get to pick 4 because.
Oh, it's only 4. So okay, then if we're going, that's so tough for me. So what are we doing? 2 forwards, a defenseman, and a goalie?
Whatever you want.
Okay. Then that would be my
Mount Rushmore.
That would be
your 4. So Crosby,
only with a caveat being like a 4B would be Nick Lidstrom as a defenseman. He was the best defenseman I've ever seen. But yeah,
fair enough. For me, I would put Crosby, Ovechkin, Kessel. No, I'm kidding. I would put Crosby, Ovechkin, Scott Niedermayer. Okay.
So you'd take Crosby and Ovechkin over McDavid?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, only because I've been watching. The reason why I fell in love with hockey was the goal and goal.
Right.
Right.
I'm with you.
Like I would maybe take Ovechkin over, or I mean McDavid over Ovechkin, but Ovechkin's just so dominant. Like
Man, yeah,
he
it's the
has the puck and he's
consistency.
just, and like the way he's been dominating the league over the year ever since I started watching. Like McDavid's in the league for what, 5 years now? I think it's
Yeah,
in
I
his
think it's
fifth
his
year,
6th
right?
year, yeah.
So maybe 2 years from now, I'd obviously have him in, but for the two forwards, maybe even put Patty Kane in there, But
Yeah, I
I would
don't
have
think Kane or touches Ovi or Crosby just
no.
yet, but that's a whole
That's why
nother
I have
debate.
exactly, yeah. That's why
Yeah.
I have Ovechkin and Crosby as my number
Right.
two or top two forwards, and then my defenseman I put Scott Niedermayer in. He's
That's
just
not a bad
he
choice.
was
He was incredible.
he was gross with New Jersey.
Yep.
He's just a great player overall, and then even his time in Anaheim, he was great there as well.
Yeah, he was.
And then my goalie I'd put Carey Price
Oh my God.
over either like
That's another one to talk about on
No, like,
on
he's-
Monday on the upcoming
Sure,
North
but
Division
no, like,
podcast.
as he is a hab, I can't like him, but he's one of the best goalies in the league. Not now, I'd say, but
Yeah,
since
no.
I've been watching, 100%. Like I do, I know,
Interesting.
like, with knowing you for like the longest time, like you've been a Brodeur guy for like
Oh,
all
yeah.
your life, right?
Brodeur.
He's probably one of the best goalies of all time, but from what I've been watching, and Brodeur did play then, but it wasn't his best hockey.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. He
Right.
wasn't dominant.
So
The
I would put
only exception
Carey
being the
Price.
2012 Stanley Cup run where he got them to the finals like single-handedly.
Yeah.
Everything else, no, he wasn't.
Fair enough. Maybe I'd like switch Carey Price with like Jonas Gustafsson, but
That's freaking
no,
ridiculous.
I'm just kidding.
Well, guys, to
But
wrap
yeah,
up this episode, Jonas Gustafsson, the greatest goalie of all time.
all time.
But
Yeah.
no, we're
Maybe Jonathan Bernier, but we'll see.
Jonathan Bernier.
Hey, he had a great season with Detroit. He's just Detroit couldn't score
wow,
goals.
it's really
Him and Grice both, but
just
that's
making
a
his
topic
case
for
for
another time.
greatest of all time, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Well, everyone,
Possible.
thanks for listening to episode 2 of the Switched Out podcast. Make sure to tune in to the North Division Spectacular with a very special guest previewing the North Division playoff matchups and very specifically the Leafs-Habs matchup. Make sure to tune in, and we'll see you next week.